Good morning, friends, and welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Hope you're having a great Saturday, and thank you to all of you who are already on the stream, and more are coming on. Hey, Paul, good to see you, my friend. Okay, Michael's here, and TA420 NK. Hey, William. William is in the house. Raisin Fishes is here as well. Crows Aquatics and R. Baglio. Z-Zip is in the house. Angelo's here. Ronald's here. Patrick Maloney, good morning to you as well. Hey, Robin. Robin in the house. Hey, Denny. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you're here. Hey, Jerry. I'm going to get you an answer on that hang on back filter. If I don't, just remind me again. It's the HOG. It's the Hog 1 or 2 or maybe the 3. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I know it's the HOG model. Hang on back or hang on glass. Hang on glass. The Hog. They call it the Hog. So Denny and Jerry are part of the moderator crew. I have a great moderator crew that keeps everything on track and keeps the live stream family friendly. Thank you, Denny, for the AV check. Saves me a lot of anxiety. DSGF in the house. And Melissa Steves is here. Good morning to you as well. And Dustin is here as well. And D Gets. Fourth in the building. What? Fourth in the building? Awesome. All right. Hey, Whip. Good to see you, my friend. So more folks are jumping on. Looks like Dan, hey, Dan. Good to see you and glad you're here. Ronald is here. Hope you had a great, Tim? Time on your vacation? I need a vacation. Everybody needs a vacation. So at any rate, let's go ahead and do the official start here. I have a lot to cover today. It's going to be a fun stream, I hope. I hope for you. And I took some video of the tanks, but I might just give you a live lap. Just go ahead and turn the camera around and show you the fish. They're doing great. And my new additions, my new African cichlids, I'm looking at them from here, are doing marvelous. And I'm very anxious to get them in this tank behind me. It's going to add a tremendous amount of life and activity, good activity, because you know that sometimes the activity in a cichlid tank can be bad activity, murderous activity. So we don't want any of that. So let's go ahead and make this official by doing our little dropping logo, I call it. There you go. It's official. Big shout out to Cunningham Tropicals for being a sponsor of the channel. They gave me those recent African cichlids as well as some community fish. And you can get 15% off at Cunningham Tropicals by using ben.o.cichlid for 15% off on fish and ben.o.cichlid for 10% off on dry goods like his wonderful food. I do have a trivia question for you today, a movie trivia question. Because I still have some of this food left, some of this wonderful food from Cunningham Tropicals. And let's give away another bag of this. We'll do this later on in the stream. I've got some spirulina, some fry starter. I've got some color enhancement, premium. Anyway, now, that being said, if you send me information about your tanks and I have another kind of food on hand that I think will be better for you, I will send you that food, because I do have some Sarah and I do have some Northfin as well. So we'll get to that later on. Keep America 2A strong. Welcome to the stream, my friend. And glad to see you here. And what else we got? We got Alishan AS. Hey, Alishan, your package did go out. I did send you some food. Let me know when you get it, please. I was a little late getting to the post office because of the weather, but we've had good weather now, so I'll be able to get to the post office a little earlier. Did you get it already? Alishan, did you get the fish food already? I see up above there. It says thanks again for the fish food. If you got it, it got there pretty quick. All right. So today's topic, we'll be getting into that in a second as well. And a couple more very quick shout outs. Let's go ahead and shout outs and bill paying, right? A very easy way to support the channel, apart from you watching the videos, giving them a thumbs up and subscribing, is to go ahead and use this link to get to Amazon. Amazon.com/shop/ben.o.cichlid. If you use that link, you go to my Amazon store where I have a lot of my recommended products. But anything you buy on Amazon gives a small percentage to the channel if you use that link to get to Amazon. It's a very cool program, great way to support the channel. Doesn't cost you anything additionally. Big shout out to my wonderful monthly Patreon supporters. They make a very big difference in what I'm able to do in this fish room. And a big thank you to all of you. You are providing a great backbone, a great amount of support to the channel. Thank you to all of you. And the last bill paying announcement is if you'd like to pick up some channel swag, some coffee cups, some t-shirts, some hoodies, check out the Teespring store. And all these links are underneath all of my videos. You see them under the videos, and there's a whole bunch of coffee mugs and all kinds of stuff there. So check it out. Great way to support the channel. But the best way to support the channel is by you being here and watching videos, commenting, giving thumbs up, and subscribing. So that is the best way to go. So that's it for the commercials. We will now be moving forward commercial free. Hey, Brian, good to see you. Brian Park in the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a short video for you that I put together, which will be released later as a standalone video. The advantage, of course, of seeing it during the live stream is that you get it completely commercial free. I don't know if you've noticed, but after the live stream uploads to YouTube, which can take a little while, but once it uploads to YouTube, it usually has a lot of commercials, a lot of what they call ad breaks. And when you see the live stream, they give me an option, by the way, just so you know, they give me an option to run ads and commercials during the live stream. As a matter of fact, there's a pop-up on my screen right now that says this would be a good time to insert an ad, and close that. And I choose not to do that during the live stream. I like the live stream to be commercial free. And then afterwards, when it uploads, there are commercials. And there are commercials, of course, in the video that I upload. That's how the channel is able to generate a little bit of revenue. Does a channel, here's a channel with 55,000 subscribers. I get about 150,000 views a month. You'd be surprised at how small amount of revenue it actually makes. You're not going to retire and be able to live on 150,000 views a month. It is they give a small fraction of a penny for every time somebody watches a video. So it's becoming like Spotify, you know. The artist gets like 1/100th of a penny every time there's a play or something. Don't get my daughter started on that. She's a musical artist. At any rate, I'll play that video for you, and you can tell me what you think. Hey, Jim's Fish in the house. Hello to you. And did I miss anybody? Andy and Angela, I think I said hi to you already. And it looks like Kathy? Kathy's in the house. I hate ads during live streams. Yeah, have you seen those? Well, the replays, you can't help it. I mean, the replays, you will get some ads in there, but you can put them in the middle of an actual live stream like we're doing right now. And I don't like that. Not my cup of tea. So there you go. Hey, Cat Sailor. All right. So before I jump into this short video for you, do you have any questions that you would like to ask me before we jump into the video? Ask me now. I am looking at the chat. Hey, J Dubs Aquatics. Good morning to you. Cat Sailor, I am late, Angelo. My wife needed help. Okay, I'm going to need a note from your wife, Cat Sailor. You know how that goes. Oh, someone saw me yesterday. I was out and about. And someone say, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm on the honeydew list. I'm on my honeydew list. What are you doing?" Happy wife, happy life. All right. Any questions for me before I jump into the into today's presentation, today's video? I don't see any questions coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and start that video for you. So here you go. This is a little video I'll be releasing later on today. I'll probably also be doing a tour of the fish room. Probably release that video today. Just a few things. Let's see here. Okay, here you go. Comment during the video. Let me know what you think. Give me some live ongoing feedback. And maybe I'll tweak the video before I actually upload it to YouTube. Here you go. Recently, I had to fire up this tank that you see here behind me to accommodate some new fish that I had just gotten in. And sometimes when you set up a brand new tank, there are issues, right? Apart from the things that we expect, like a little bit of cloudiness and things of this nature, you can have a die-off or fish that are in obvious stress after setting up a new tank. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have an established tank that I could quarantine these fish in, so I had to get a tank that was just laying around and get it going. And the way I did that, and the way I did it successfully without fish stress or die-off, was to take seeded filter media out of a filter. Now, what do I mean by that? I normally will keep sponges that go inside of my Expertmatic internal filters. I usually keep several of those sponges inside hang-on back filters. So they are growing a colony of beneficial bacteria. That's not the only place you can keep them. You can keep them inside of a sump. You can keep them inside the aquarium, tucked behind some decor. But I always have some sponges that I can pull and put inside of a filter and then inside of a new tank. And because of that, I was able to add this seeded media that already had that vital beneficial bacteria growing in it. And so the aquarium water could handle the waste produced by the fish. When you first start up a tank, the fish might look good for a day, but then as they start producing waste and the ammonia builds up, and there's nothing there to really consume that ammonia and bring it down close to zero, those fish are going to go into a lot of stress. They're going to clamp their fins. They're going to hang out at the bottom, and they're probably going to die is what's going to happen. So you need to have bacteria. Now, some people can add bacteria from a bottle, something like I know Seachem makes products, and so does Fritz, Fritz Zyme, and Seachem, I believe, Stability. Products like that can add bacteria from a bottle. Those are good, just be sure you add fish right away, or maybe sprinkle some food in the tank. Something's got to feed that bacteria, right? So the sooner you add fish after doing that, the better. And same thing with the sponge. You set up a tank, you put a sponge in there. The sooner you can add the fish, the sooner the bacteria living in that sponge can start to eat and grow and populate more of the aquarium. So don't add beneficial bacteria and then think you have to wait a week or a month. You don't. That's probably the worst thing you could do, because the bacteria will have no nutrients, no nutrition. So the biggest mistake people will make when doing this is to add the sponge to a tank that hasn't had its water conditioned. You do need to make sure that the water has no chloramine, no chlorine, nothing in it. So add a little bit of Prime, Seachem Prime, a little bit of Fritz Complete, whatever you use to condition your water. Add that first, then go ahead and add your seeded media. Doesn't have to be an internal filter sponge. It can be sponges, like the kind of sponges that you see on these aquarium co-op sponge filters. Those can be tucked into a hang-on back filter and then popped into a tank, like in a smaller application, right away. The internal filters are not right for every aquarium because they do push a lot of water. So in a small setup, like a little 5-gallon aquarium, like I use for my plecos, it's not going to work. So you need something with a lot less flow. A sponge filter that just simply bubbles to the surface is probably the best option in your smaller aquariums. So you can tuck a couple of those into a sump or into the back of your tank or into a hang-on back filter, and you're ready to go. You can take a small tank, a small Tupperware container, anything, and you can make it instantly safe to add fish. And that I think is the best way. Seeded media is the best way to start up an aquarium. Second best, in my opinion, and these are my opinions, I'd love to hear your opinions below, but second best, in my opinion, is to use bacteria in a bottle. And when none of that is available, you can always go the old-fashioned way and do what's called a fish-in cycle. You can just slowly start to add fish to a conditioned tank, and gradually they'll produce ammonia and create a beneficial bacteria population. Sometimes a fish like a rugged, tough fish, like a black skirt tetra, fish like that have been used in the past to get tanks going. Some people will drop a piece of shrimp into an aquarium, right? Some people will add ammonia to an aquarium and have that ammonia start to convert and feed and create a population of bacteria. So there are lots of ways to go, but my favorite is seeded bacteria from sponges that I've tucked away somewhere in the event that I need to set up a tank fast, okay? So share your thoughts and comments and tips below. We all learn from each other. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like some... There you go. So that's the video that will be released later on today. You got to see it commercial free. Any thoughts or ideas on that, let me know. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of your questions. I know DV asked about black diamond sand, and this is what I've heard. This is what I've heard as the pros and the cons to black diamond sand. First of all, you're going to get a lot of folks out there that are going to say, I've been using it for years without a problem, and that's okay. So it is being used successfully with African cichlids, and so you're going to get that. You're also going to get another school of thought, another group that's going to say black diamond sand is designed to be an abrasive, and because of that, if you're using it with fish that sift sand a lot, like African cichlids, with some in particular, right? You know, your sand divers and certainly your buccochromis, fish like that. your gars, and also as opposed to your open water swimmers like your Malawi trout, they don't quite sift as much. And certainly with fish like your geos, right? They could conceivably get some abrasion from something like black diamond sand. So you hear these two schools of thought, but every time we talk about it, there's going to be several people that come on and go, hey, look, I've been using it for years, no problem. So I think anecdotally, from the verbal reports I get, you're probably okay. You're probably okay. Me personally, I go with Carib Sea. I know Carib Sea tumbles their product so that it doesn't have really any sharp edges. I try and keep anything and everything sharp out of the aquarium as much as I can. I mean, sometimes decorative rocks, you can get a little edge here and there. You'll notice in my 210 gallon, there's almost nothing, no rocks at all. That they're all rounded, and so it's because fish will dart in the dark if they get startled or if they're being harassed. They'll dart in the dark and they'll score their eyes and get and then that can turn into an infection and possibly eye loss or even the death of the fish. So I try and keep things that can be abrasive to a minimum. It's bad enough that the fish are abrasive to each other, right? I shouldn't have fed them before the stream. They'd be coming to my hand a lot more if I hadn't fed them. So there you go. I hope that answers your question, DV. Am I the final authority on substrates? No, there are lots of opinions out there, and ultimately, I mean, you've got to go with what you in many cases have to just sort of try it and see what happens. Chef Steve, there's not enough explanation about the use of salt in aquariums. Now, one of the common misconceptions out there is that Malawi salt is salt. Malawi salt or lake salt is actually it's trace minerals. It's not salt like kosher salt or Epsom or aquarium salt, which is salt you could put on your food, right? And consume, and it would be fine, and it would taste the same. And people use salt to help as a sort of laxative or as something to reduce the swelling in a fish, right? I once had an Otopharynx tetrastigma that swelled up, looked like a porcupine. His the scales were standing up, the eyes were bulging. I put him in a 5-gallon tank with a big heaping teaspoon of aquarium salt, not Malawi or lake salt, but real like Epsom salt. And within 3 days, he was back to normal. And he went on to live for several years as a great looking fish. So it's used for swelling and bloating. It helps the fish sort of pass fluid and release fluid from the body. It can work as a laxative. It can help with the stimulation of slime coat. So if you have some fish that maybe have some light scarring, things of that nature, adding a little salt can help to develop some slime coat. So in some countries like Europe, it is the first line of medication because in Europe there's crazy controls on fish medication, things that we take for granted, like General Cure, Maricin, things that Metroplex, things that we could just go and buy without a problem. You can't get in Europe unless you get like some sort of prescription or something. I don't know how they do it. So salt is the sort of like the first angle of attack on just about everything. So they hit it with salt, and it helps the fish sort of create some circulation, some I don't know, what would you call it? Some osmosis or whatever they call that. All right. Any more questions? And that's very true, Whip. And I hope I said that in the video. There's when I spoke to the reps, over at Fritz, I did there's a video I think where I speak to some Fritz reps, or and the thing that came up, there were two things that came up. One was you buy the bacteria in a bottle and you don't notice that it's expired, or it's supposed to be refrigerated, you didn't refrigerate it. They say that you will not get a good result. And the other mistake, which I've mentioned before, you've heard it before, right? You use it in a tank that wasn't first conditioned to neutralize chlorine, chloramine, ammonia, whatever. And so you add it to an unconditioned tank and the beneficial bacteria dies. The same thing applies to seeded media. You bring over seeded media, a sponge from another that's been sitting in a filter for about a month or so, or floating around in an established tank, and you put it into a tank full of unconditioned water. You are going to more than likely kill off all the bacteria, and you're going to end up having an ammonia spike, and your fish are going to get into a lot of stress and probably die. So, good point. I hope I brought that up, Whips. Whips World. Zen Ginger in the house. Hello, Zen Ginger. Good to see you. And Allison Dalton has joined us. Let me see. Whenever I am starting a new canister filter, I do a 50-50 swap of new and cycled media between the new and the cycled canister. That's actually not a bad not bad advice. I mean, you could use all the media in the old canister, unless it's just worn down and nasty. Now, how many of you actually will take media, whether it's your bio, like your rings and your matrix and your bio home or what have you, right? Your marine pure. How many of you take that media and or sponges and just rinse it in tap water? And how many of you use aquarium water to rinse it? Why don't you share in the comments? Let me know how many of you do it with tank water and how many of you are doing it with plain old straight tap water. I'd be curious to see what the take is on that. Now, while you're doing that, why don't we give away a little bit of fish food? What do you say? Clarence 007 in the house. Hey, Clarence, good to see you. Jonathan Ramirez in the house. All right, so here's today's movie trivia question, and the winner will receive fish food. Now, you're all going to know who said this, and that's not the answer I'm looking for. You're all going to know who said it. The question is, what movie, what's the title of the movie that it was said in? Okay, you ready? Have you got your hands over the keyboard? Here you go. Here's the quote. Get to the chopper. Get to the chopper. Moderators cannot play. You are not allowed to play these games. You know that. I know Whip's World is thinking, oh, I know this. Anybody? Anybody? Mitty Mac Predator, you got it, my friend. Get to the chopper. Dan Yu comes in a close second. Art Baglio, close third. Terminator. That I was expecting more people to say Terminator. At any rate, Mini Mac, I know I probably have it somewhere, but send me your real name and your full mailing address to ben.o.cichlid at gmail.com, and I will get you some fish food. Now, be sure to tell me in the email what kind of fish you're keeping and which ones you would like to have the food for, and I will try to match you up as best as I can. And a big shout out to Cunningham Cichlids for sponsoring this food giveaway. Very nice of Josh to ship me a bunch of food, and then I send you the food. So thank you, Josh. I don't know if you're listening while you're doing water changes, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. All right. Any more questions, my friends, that I can answer for you? Now that we've given away some food and shared a video with you. Robert Reed, so close. And Brandon as well. Oh. William Dyer, tank water. So William, when he rinses his media, he says he's heard that the tap water is safe if the media is well established, but it makes me nervous. I get it. A lot of you here are fans of one of my favorite channels, and that's Jason Adams over at Primetime Aquatics, and he has a video where he speaks at length about using tap water to rinse sponges in his fish room and how he's been doing it for years without a problem. And I think, though, that the point that you're making, the point that you're making is a good one with regards to an established tank. I think there's definitely a lot more wiggle room, a lot more a bigger safe zone in an aquarium that has been running for a while. I think that's going to be a lot better situation for using tap water. Sometimes you can get odd stuff coming in through your tap water, depending what the city's doing. But if you have an established tank like this one here, there's just an enormous amount of beneficial bacteria living in this substrate. And of course in the sump and in the canister. So when I service the Fluval FX6 that's on this aquarium, I'll just pull all those sponges out and rinse them in the sink. And I'll also do a light rinse of the large Swiss tropical matin sponges that are in the sump once a year, and those will just be rinsed in the sink because it's a very established tank. Now, if it was the first month or so, I might be inclined to use aquarium water, but everything here in this tank room, everything in here is pretty well established, except for the brand new tank that I set up for the brand new cichlids. But using seeded media gives that tank pretty much the stability of an established tank. So at any rate, yeah, everything I use in here is, everything in here is being rinsed in the tap. Jonathan, why don't you reach out to Jonathan wants to get some fish turned over to somebody else. Let me see here. Jonathan, why don't you reach out to Zenzo Tozawa. You can reach him through Aquarium Co-op. I think if you just if you just do Zenzo at aquariumcoop.com, I think that's his email, and see if he wants them. And if not, he might know somebody who wants them. So it's a 9-inch plus trout and a tyrannosaurus. Those are awesome fish. Are they too aggressive? Are you getting out of cichlids, or have they gotten too big? Those are awesome fish. Now, Mess wants to know what's the temperature recommended for grow out. Now, I don't know if you have a specific temperature for grow out. Some people run temperature a little higher because it runs the metabolism of the fish a little higher. Someone once told me if you run a temperature high, the life expectancy of the fish might be shorter, because you're just running that metabolism super high. That might create faster growth. Not sure if that's something I would recommend. I run my tanks at about between 78 and 80. Sometimes it goes down to 77, but usually 78 to 80. And I don't really do anything special, any temperature adjustments in a grow out tank necessarily. But that being said, maybe I will increase the temperature of that baby cichlid, that baby pleco tank, because it has like 1,000 plecos in it. And I'd love to get them a little bit larger. I took about 21 and a half inch, 1 to 1.5 inch baby bushy nose plecos over to my local fish store, and so I pretty much emptied out that little pleco 5-gallon that I had, and they gave me a $70 store credit, which I thought was generous. I just really wanted to rehome them, and so that worked out pretty well. But I don't run a special temp for a grow out tank. Jonathan, I don't think you'd go wrong with Zenzo. I don't think he would take a fish that he will not take the fish from you if he's going to neglect it. But certainly in the Bay Area, there are a lot of fish keepers. Chef Steve, have you ever tried using a spray bar? Yes. I used to use the spray bar attachment on my Sun canisters. And with the new Seashay sharks, you can actually adjust the top of it and pop it up. Actually, pop it up about a quarter inch, and it creates a spray bar. It actually has holes, and it shoots the water out through the holes. Kind of cool. Spray bars are great for surface tension breakup, which of course is great for oxygen, CO2, removing CO2, adding oxygen to the aquarium. So spray bars are great for that. I, of course, in this tank with the outputs of the two Seashay 5.0 pumps in the sump, I have a lot of surface tension breakup and a lot of oxygen. The downside is I do get a lot of micro bubbles, but I like having a lot of oxygen. You'll notice these fish, they don't work their mouths. They're not working their mouths. They don't have that constant thing going on, except when they're chasing or in the middle of eating or doing something like that. But otherwise, there's a lot of oxygen in the tank. The only fish that works his mouth a little bit is the gar, and I think the gar is just an older fish. Let's see if I can get him over here. Here he is. This is the gar. Not sure if you could see him in the chat. Let me transition here. This is the gar right back there. He's got that long mouth and lips. They're designed to go sideways and go between rocks in the wild, right? They're true predators. and they'll go on their side and go between rocks to eat fry and smaller fish that can fit in their mouth. All right, let's see here. Bonnie has a question that I missed. Let me go back up and look for it, Bonnie. Don't see it. Might be my old eyes, but I don't see it. Ask me again, Bonnie. It looks like Fish Hunter. Fish Hunter is using tap water to rinse his media. At any rate, spray bars are a good thing, I think. They do help oxygenate aquariums. And let's see here. Bonnie, okay, I think I found your question, Bonnie. If you're worried about pathogens contaminating your tank, how would you quarantine the cycled filter media? Okay. Now, are you asking, this is a genuine concern, which would have to do with cross-contamination. And there are circumstances. There are fish keepers out there, and you tell me if you do this. They have separate nets, separate hoses. They are very concerned about cross-contamination. And so if something breaks out in one tank, before you've had a chance to notice it, like happened to me one time with some Colomaris, it can jump to the other tanks and then start to surface and pop up in several tanks at once because of cross-contamination. So I think what you're asking is, if there's a concern about that, what would you do with that media? So I think that's one of those situations where you're going to roll the dice, because you're not going to quarantine media, because that would mean not providing it a food source, fish waste, unless you're adding like ammonia or a dead shrimp to the aquarium, or ghost feeding, dropping food in the aquarium. So it's one of those things where you pull the media from what is a healthy tank and add it to the new tank. So you are just sort of taking a chance. You're just rolling the dice. So I don't think you can actually, I really wouldn't see a way to quarantine media per se. So at any rate, but I understand your concern. Jonathan paid $125 for the fish that he's rehoming. Wow. Okay. You definitely want a good home for him. So I'm looking here. DSGF is bailing early. All right. Well, have a great weekend, my friend. TA240NK, I've always had mine at 80. Also rinse sponges and tap. Also use spray bars, but I keep them below the water level. Now, I know from experience that spray bars below the water level will increase circulation for sure, but they're probably not going to do anything that much for oxygenation. You really need the surface tension broken up. And I learned that lesson the hard way because I took some outputs, I put them below the water level. I was getting nice circulation, and the next morning I had dead fish from a lack of oxygen. So you need to have that surface being broken up, and that can happen with a hang-on back cascading into the aquarium. It can happen from an air stone or a sponge filter that's bubbling to the surface and breaking bubbles at the surface. That'll break up the surface tension and create oxygen. But if you put those below the top of the water level, you will not get the oxygenation that you want. Chef Steve is asking about carbon. I don't use activated carbon or charcoal in any of my aquariums unless there's a bad smell. And I would make a point of finding out why there's a bad smell. There was a little bit of a bad smell in the 55-gallon planted tank. And it turned out that a piece of decor was, I don't know why, but giving off a little bit of a petroleum smell. It smelled a little bit like gas. I threw that piece of decor away, but I did add some carbon, and the aquarium doesn't smell anymore. It worked very, very quickly. I also use it after medicating a tank, and I'll also use it in a brand new tank to help clear up some of the initial algae bloom and some of the particles that can be in fogging up a tank initially. But beyond that, I don't use carbon. I also don't use chemical filtration, even though products like ChemiPure and Purigen, those are great products. And if you have a foggy tank, they will clear them up very quickly. But once a tank becomes established, and again, a great population of beneficial bacteria, you really don't need those products. Your bacteria is doing all the heavy lifting. If you have plants, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Now, keep in mind, you're only going to have as much beneficial bacteria as your aquarium can support. I've said this before. Adding more filters, adding deeper substrate, adding more decor is not going to necessarily give you more beneficial bacteria. All you're going to end up with is the bacteria spread out over more surfaces. But you're only going to have the amount of beneficial bacteria that the fish and the feeding can support. And whether you're spraying it out over a 6-inch deep substrate or 5 canister filters, it doesn't really matter. So there you go, Chef Steve. I hope that answered your question. Enrique, you're right. I would, after I medicate, I use carbon to get rid of the residual medication that could be in the water column. And I only leave carbon in for about a month, and then I toss it. So I have to have I use the C-Chem, what is it called? It's a special kind of carbon from C-Chem. I love it. It's really good carbon. And I use that, and I put it inside of a mesh bag. And usually what I'll do is I'll tie off the bag and leave a little bit of the thread hanging outside of the filter. And that reminds me that I have carbon in the filter. I'll also make a notation on my aquarium fish room wall. I have a dry erase board so it reminds me that in a month I pull it out and I dump it. Some people think that after a while carbon will start to release toxins back into the tank. You can tell me what you think about that in the comments. Okay, fish hunter, if they're angled up, if they're under the surface, the water surface, and they're angled, the surface of the water, and they're angled up, you are going to get some surface tension breakup. You are going to get some of the oxygenating benefits of a spray bar. So that's good. That's a good thing. And some people will do that because they don't want the noise of water cascading into an aquarium. If you have a room that you want let's say it's in a bedroom or something like that, some people don't like that noise. I like the sound of water cascading. But I used to have a tank in a bedroom, and it had a overflow box in the corner of the back right corner of the aquarium, and that was so noisy. I ended up putting what's called a Durso, which just really, really quieted down that overflow box. There's actually a video on, I think it was called I Can't Sleep, but I had a video all about how to make a DIY Durso in an overflow box to quiet it down. Okay, Ron, you've been running it for 40 years, but I'm assuming that you've swapped it out in those 40 years, right? It's not the same activated carbon that you... Hey, yeah, and some people love it, and if you're swapping it out, every now and then, it's good. More power to you. Ex-colleague Kev, I'm late, but late better. Yeah, but late's better than never, my friend. Chef Steve, you are welcome, my friend. Whips World, that's what I had in California, and in one of the homes in California, I had it in the TV room, had a 60-gallon in the TV room, and at first I had some of those overflow boxes. I think they're either top fin or they're aqua. They're like a very broadly marketed brand, and I think it was called the Model 90, and it was just so loud. It moved a lot of water, and that was a big plus point. And they're Whisper. They're called Whisper, and I actually did a review on them. I said these do not whisper. I ended up returning them to Chewy's, which, by the way, Chewy's is a great place to buy stuff. If you're going to buy a Sun canister or anything, really, Chewy's is great. I just packaged them and sent them back and said, these don't whisper, they scream, they shout, and they just recredited my account. But it was just much too loud. And so I went to canisters, and the canister worked fine. So, and it was quiet. And that's one big advantage to a canister filter. They are very quiet. They were not whisper. They were scream. It should have been called the Shout 90. It should. I had to turn the TV up to like 25. Oh. All right. Any other questions that you have for me? Go ahead and hit me now, because we are getting close to the wind up. And you know what? I didn't show you the tanks. I'll go ahead and release a lap of the fish room over the weekend. You can see how everybody's doing, including the brand new cichlids that I picked up and the brand new community fish. I also have some brand new fish that are called 24 karat. They're just little, they look like little minnows, and they're called 24 karat. Picked them up here locally, and they're also in a quarantine tank. Very pretty. So when I add these rasboras, these neons to the 55-gallon planted, it's going to add a lot more activity to that tank. I think it's just going to be a lot prettier. And of course the plants are doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that 55 gallons. So it's a great situation there. All right. So a big shout out to my wonderful moderators, and a big shout out to Cunningham Tropicals and to Aquarium Co-op for all their help. And a big shout out to you who show up here and give me some of your Saturday and spend time with me. And to those of you who've subscribed, we've given it a thumbs up and watch my videos. Those of you who lurk and don't subscribe but watch, thank you to all of you for your support. And also a big thank you to my wonderful Patreon supporters. You are very appreciated. As I like to say, you help out in more ways than you know. And with that being said, I hope you folks have a wonderful weekend. We're expecting some great weather here. I think I'm going to go have dinner with the family over on the water somewhere. And they have a lot of waterfront, little diners and grills here in Nashville, because we do have some good weather this weekend. So thank you so much for tuning in, my friends, and I'll see you next week at the same time. Watch for a couple upcoming videos. And that's it for me. See you next week. Bye-bye.